As we learned in Part 1, although Annam confessed to the crimes, if the motive was to steal phones for money, such inexpensive devices worth only a few dozen yuan would hardly justify the risk for the perpetrator. This inconsistency led Officer Tran to suspect that there might be a hidden motive or an undiscovered factor. Could Annam truly be the sole perpetrator, or is there someone else manipulating him from behind the scenes? Or perhaps he is concealing something directly tied to the true purpose? These questions pushed him to delve deeper into every detail of the case, leaving no possibility unexplored. Officer Tran decided to expand the scope of the investigation, particularly focusing on Annam's relationships with individuals or groups in the area. He requested a more thorough review of the usage history of the third phone to uncover any potential overlooked clues. However, no abnormalities were found. The continual emergence of doubts during the investigation of Duong and Nam's case left Officer Tran deeply troubled. Nevertheless, with Annam voluntarily confessing to all the murders and sexual assaults of 3 victims, the legal process became more straightforward and expedited. With detailed confessions coupled with collected legal evidence, the case seemed to have reached its conclusion. Despite lingering questions that could not be resolved, Officer Tran lacked sufficient grounds to reopen the investigation. Higher authorities directed the judicial process to proceed, and Annam was detained while awaiting sentencing. During his imprisonment, Annam appeared calm, showing no resistance, regret, or fear. This only deepened the confusion among those like Officer Tran, who had followed the case from the beginning. On September 6, 2012, the Chengdu People's Court officially sentenced Duong and Nam to death. The execution was scheduled for October 2. The verdict stated that the defendant had committed acts of rape and murder with cruel and brutal nature, causing significant harm to public security. During the trial, Annam showed no signs of panic or pleas for a reduced sentence. However, just when everything seemed to have concluded, an unexpected twist occurred, once again shaking public opinion and the investigative authorities. A month after the sentencing, on August 1, 2012, the Sichuan District Police Department received a report of missing persons from Ms. Wang Na, 45, the owner of a massage parlor chain in the area. Ms. Wang reported that between May and August 2012, 4 employees from her massage chain had gone missing one after another. The missing individuals included Alin, 19 years old, Xiao Vu, 17 years old, Mi Han, 23 years old, and Xiao Sam, 22 years old. All the young women were healthy, with no history of running away from home or criminal involvement. Ms. Wang stated that these women disappeared after being called to provide in-home massage services to clients. This information raised suspicions among the police that these were not ordinary disappearances but might be linked to human trafficking or sexual crimes. This suspicion was further strengthened by the prolonged period of disappearances and the increasing number of victims. The police initiated an investigation by tracing the phone numbers of those who contacted the massage parlor. However, Ms. Wang explained that clients often saved the employees' personal phone numbers after their first service. This complicated the tracing process, as the identities or locations of the callers could not be determined through the official management system of the parlor. Additionally, customers typically did not leave detailed personal information, and the employees often worked in a flexible environment without strict contracts. This created significant challenges for the police in verifying relationships or tracking the missing women. Given this situation, the police did not rule out the possibility that one or more criminal groups were operating in the area, exploiting the lax management of massage employees to commit crimes. The situation grew increasingly complex, requiring the investigative team to expand their search area, verify every connection related to the victims, and deploy advanced investigative techniques to uncover the truth behind these suspicious events. Faced with the lack of leads from phone records or direct information related to the missing victims, the police were forced to shift their focus to reviewing customers who had visited Ms. Wang Na's massage parlors over the past 3 months. This task was extremely challenging because the number of customers was enormous, reaching hundreds, making it a significant challenge for the investigative team to classify and examine each case. To narrow down the scope of the investigation, the police decided to concentrate on a group of customers who were likely to have saved the personal phone numbers of all 4 missing victims. These were individuals directly served by the victims at the massage parlor. Through the testimony of Ms. Wang and the victim's colleagues, the police identified a list of approximately 60 people within this group. Next, the police began identifying each individual on the list. They spent several days reviewing footage extracted from the massage parlor's security cameras, attempting to match it with the list of customers to identify those with suspicious behavior or schedules. However, this task proved exceptionally difficult because the camera footage was not always clear. Many customers wore hats, masks, or sunglasses, making identification challenging. After 2 days of effort, the identification process yielded no significant results. Most individuals on the list were verified to have no apparent suspicious behavior or had solid alibis. This added immense pressure on the police, as the prolonged investigation increased the likelihood of new disappearances. The investigation was gradually reaching a standstill, and the burden on the police intensified. If this situation continued, the investigation would not only stagnate but also put the lives of potential victims in greater danger. Despite the data available, investigators found no viable way forward. A suspicious turning point, however, emerged in early September 2012. A local resident living near the Melaleuca forest south of Duong town reported discovering human remains in the area. Upon receiving the report, the police promptly arrived at the dense forest to inspect the scene. They discovered 2 skeletons lying 10 meters apart. Based on the decomposition state and bone conditions, forensic experts estimated that the victims had died 2 to 3 months earlier. Recognizing this as a potential breakthrough in the case, the police decided to expand the search area across the entire forest. By midday on September 4, 2012, the extended search yielded horrifying results. 2 more female bodies were discovered. One of the bodies had almost completely decomposed, leaving only traces of soft tissue, while the other showed slower decomposition, particularly in the lower body and several other areas. Most of the body remained intact, suggesting that the death had occurred more recently. Based on the state of the bodies and information about the missing victims, the police suspected that these 4 bodies belonged to the massage parlor employees reported missing earlier. Samples of bones and tissues from the remains were immediately sent for DNA testing. The results quickly confirmed the police's suspicions. All 4 bodies belonged to the victims A Lin, Xiao Vu, Mi Han, and Xiao Sam. However, only Xiao Sam's body, which had decomposed the least, was in a condition suitable for detailed autopsy. This presented the sole opportunity for the police to gather evidence regarding the cause of death and potential clues about the perpetrator. Forensic experts immediately got to work, focusing on analyzing samples and identifying any remaining traces on the victim's body, hoping to unravel the entire sequence of events and identify the killer. During the autopsy of Xiao Sam's body, Officer Tran could not hide his confusion. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation, and the victim's body showed clear signs of sexual assault. The genital area was swollen and ulcerated, indicating the extreme violence of the perpetrator's actions, similar to previous victims. Xiao Sam's phone was also missing, a detail that further highlighted the similarities with the series of murders committed by Duong and Nam. However, the inconsistency that puzzled the police was the fact that Nam had been in custody for months and was awaiting execution. If so, how could crimes with similar patterns continue to occur? Could there be someone imitating his actions, or had there been more than one perpetrator involved in these cases from the start? These questions drove the investigative team to revisit every detail of the previous cases. Realizing the need for a more thorough examination of the clues, the police decided to review all surveillance footage from the massage parlor where Xiao Sam worked. This task was not easy, as the number of people entering and exiting over 3 months was overwhelming, and identifying potentially related individuals required significant effort. Investigators began analyzing each video clip, focusing on motivations, movements, and behaviors of each customer to identify any suspicious signs. On the afternoon of the second day of reviewing the footage, the lead investigator came across a familiar face in the videos. It was Duong Trung, a former suspect in the Lu Xiao Lam case. Duong Trung's presence at the massage parlor raised a series of new questions. Why was he connected to both cases? Furthermore, if he wasn't involved, the coincidence was too significant to ignore. Recognizing this as a critical lead, Officer Tran decided to concentrate on Duong Trung's movements and activity history. Was his presence purely coincidental, or was Duong Trung the missing piece in this complex puzzle? The investigation shifted focus once more, with the new goal of uncovering Duong Trung's role in these incidents. Believing that the perpetrator could strike again if not stopped in time, the police devised a detailed plan to apprehend the suspect. To carry out the plan, a female officer was assigned to go undercover as a massage parlor employee, acting as bait, while waiting for the right moment to capture the perpetrator in the act. 2 days after the plan was put into action, at 8 p.m. on September 7th, a massage parlor employee named Xiao Li received a call from Duong Trung. He requested Xiao Li to come to his house for a home service. Seizing this opportunity, the undercover female officer replaced Xiao Li, using the excuse that she was unwell and unable to work. Meanwhile, another police team was stationed around Duong Trung's house, monitoring all movements to ensure the undercover officer's safety. At 9 p.m., the surveillance team observed Duong Trung leaving his house, taking the undercover officer on his motorcycle. The task force discreetly followed from a distance, maintaining a safe range while staying close enough to intervene if any danger arose. After traveling for some distance, Duong Trung led the female officer to the Melaleuca forest, where the police had previously discovered the 4 bodies of missing victims. At the forest, Duong Trung and the undercover officer got off the motorcycle and began talking. Duong Trung appeared normal, showing no signs of suspicion. The conversation lasted about 20 minutes, but suddenly, Duong Trung's demeanor changed. He abruptly turned, covering the female officer's mouth with his hand and attempting to subdue her to the ground. Realizing the situation had become dangerous, the police team immediately stormed in, restraining and arresting Duong Trung before he could commit the crime. Caught off guard, Duong Trung was visibly shocked and unable to resist. He was handcuffed on the spot and taken to the police station for interrogation. At the station, Duong Trung initially displayed defiance, refusing to cooperate and denying any criminal involvement. However, determined to uncover the truth, the police quickly obtained a warrant to search his home. The search yielded a shocking discovery. In Duong Trung's wardrobe, authorities found 6 mobile phones, all belonging to victims who had been murdered. Upon examination, the police confirmed that 4 of the phones belonged to the recently missing massage parlor employees: Xiao Lin, Xiao Vu, Mi Han, and Xiao Sam. Even more significantly, the other 2 phones belonged to Lu Xiao Lam and Xiao En, the victims of the first 2 cases, where the perpetrator had been identified as Luong and Nam. This discovery left the police in a state of confusion. If these phones were in Duong Trung's possession, it confirmed his direct involvement in the first 2 cases. But if that was true, why did Nam confess to being the perpetrator and willingly accept the death sentence? Under pressure from the irrefutable evidence, the police used investigative techniques to break through Duong Trung's defiance. Eventually, he bowed his head and confessed to the entire truth. According to his testimony, Duong Trung was the one who had raped and murdered all 6 victims: Lu Xiao Lam, Xiao En, Xiao Lin, Xiao Vu, Mi Han, and Xiao Sam. Duong Trung revealed his cruel methods. He typically approached victims through social connections, befriended them, and asked for their phone numbers. After a period of exchanging messages to build trust, he would use the excuse of taking them out for a ride. Once in a deserted area, he would use force to overpower them, strip their clothes, and tie their hands and feet. To avoid leaving evidence, he wore condoms, gloves, and a fully covered hat throughout the act of sexual assault. Afterward, he used a plastic bag to strangle the victims to death before fleeing the scene. Duong Trung admitted that after the first 2 cases, Lu Xiao Lam and Xiao En, seeing the police intensify their investigations, he decided to shift his focus to massage parlor employees, believing they were easier targets and less likely to attract attention. He also revealed a shocking fact: the massage parlor where the victims worked was, in reality, a front for an illegal prostitution operation. Fearing exposure of her illicit business, the owner of the parlor refrained from reporting the first missing employees. It was only when the number of missing workers increased that she decided to inform the police. When questioned about his motives, Duong Trung calmly admitted that his actions were driven by the pleasure they provided him. In his chilling testimony, he recounted every detail of the crimes, starting with his first victim, Lu Xiao Lam. According to Duong Trung, he met Lu Xiao Lam on social media, and they became online lovers. For him, it was the first romantic relationship of his life, as, at 29 years old, he had never had a girlfriend. However, when meeting in real life, Lu Xiao Lam's rejection caused Duong Trung to harbor resentment. Duong Trung confessed that during their meeting, he used the excuse of taking Lu Xiao Lam for a leisurely ride to lead her to an isolated area where few people passed by. He then told Xiao Lam that he needed to return home to fetch something and asked her to wait at a trail. At the trail, after about 10 minutes of conversation, he revealed his violent nature by overpowering her and pinning her to the ground. To prevent her from screaming, he used her bra to gag her mouth. He then removed her tank top to tie her hands behind her back. With meticulous preparation, he wore a hat, gloves, and a condom to avoid leaving any traces before committing the sexual assault. Afterward, to ensure the victim could not report him, he coldly used a plastic bag to strangle her to death. Regarding his reason for taking the victim's phone, Duong Trung explained that he feared the police might use information on the phone to trace his identity and connections. This not only helped him conceal his movements but also disrupted the investigation process. He admitted to employing the same method in subsequent cases. After each crime, Duong Trung shifted his focus to new targets, taking advantage of their trust to lure them to isolated areas. He even prepared condoms, gloves, and other necessary items in advance to erase all traces, demonstrating careful planning and caution. The police determined that Duong Trung was not just an ordinary murderer but also cunning in his actions. He exploited initial familiarity to approach victims, using methods to minimize the risk of detection. This caused the initial investigation to stagnate and posed significant challenges to the investigation process. However, his cunning ultimately could not hide his cruel nature and heinous crimes. When questioned about details related to Lu Xiao Lam's case, Duong Trung initially hesitated. However, under pressure from investigators, he admitted that he had orchestrated a sophisticated plan to avoid being recorded by cameras. The front gate camera at his house had shown that he did not leave home on the night of the murder, creating a strong alibi. However, the truth is that Duong Trung had used the back exit, which connected to a horse farm next door. He silently pushed his motorcycle through this farm to completely avoid the view of the cameras. This not only demonstrated his extreme caution but also revealed the meticulous level of planning Duong Trung employed in committing his crimes. Regarding the third victim, Awa, Duong Trung completely denied any involvement. He claimed to know nothing about the girl and insisted he had no actions or behaviors connected to the case. This statement once again raised questions about Anam's role, who had previously confessed to killing all three initial victims. Based on the conflicting evidence and statements between the two suspects, the police decided to summon Anam for another interrogation. When confronted face to face with Duong Trung, an unexpected development occurred. Anam became extremely agitated. Instead of showing anger or fear, Anam displayed a sense of admiration, almost like a fan meeting his idol. The police realized that the relationship between these two individuals was far more complicated than they had anticipated. Anam not only confessed but also seemed to be trying to protect Duong Trung in some cases. His actions of taking the blame might not solely stem from pressure or fear but rather a mental bond and blind admiration. These clues clarified that the first two murders, including those of Lu Xiao Lam and Xiaoan, were actually committed by Duong Trung. For some reason, Anam deliberately confessed to protect the real perpetrator. This raised a significant question. Was Anam involved in other cases, or was he merely a pawn in the hands of a ruthless killer? During the interrogation, Anam revealed a shocking truth about why he had confessed to the murders of Lu Xiao Lam and Xiaoan. According to his testimony, on the night of the crime, Anam had accidentally witnessed the entire process of Duong Trung killing Lu Xiao Lam. He happened to be wandering in the area due to his habitual aimless loitering. The brutal actions of Duong Trung did not make him feel fear or disgust. Instead, they evoked a strange sense of excitement. Growing up in a lack of affection, with his parents passing away early, Anam received neither proper education nor sufficient care, gradually falling into delinquency. His years of wandering with bad company shaped a distorted personality. When witnessing the depraved acts of Duong Trung firsthand, instead of feeling horrified, Anam was captivated by the sense of power he imagined the perpetrator was experiencing. He felt an overwhelming thrill and became determined to learn and recreate similar crimes himself. Anam confessed that after seeing Duong Trung commit the crime, he began secretly monitoring the cornfield area. During his spying, he discovered a woman named Awa who frequently went to the fields at night to catch insects. Seeing this as a perfect opportunity, he waited for the right moment to act, mimicking exactly what he had observed from Duong Trung. When the time came to act, Anam replicated Duong Trung's methods entirely, from overpowering the victim, undressing her, sexually assaulting her, to gagging her to prevent her from screaming. However, due to his inexperience and incomplete understanding of Duong Trung's process, Anam made a critical mistake. In the first case, being out of sight, he failed to realize that Duong Trung had used a condom to avoid leaving biological traces. Believing he had followed the script correctly, Anam did not take any precautions, ultimately leaving DNA evidence at the crime scene. This misstep became the most crucial clue that helped the police identify and connect the crimes to Anam. It also revealed that he was not the sole perpetrator but merely someone imitating Duong Trung's actions. Anam's confession exposed the strange connection and twisted motivations between the two murderers, shedding light on the more complex and terrifying aspects of the case. After cross-examinations and detailed statements from both perpetrators, the entire complex chain of events was finally unraveled. Duong Trung, the ruthless mastermind and the perpetrator behind the first two murders of Lu Xiao Lam and Xiao En, as well as the subsequent cases involving the 4 massage parlor employees. Although Anam was not involved in the first two cases, his brutal actions against victim Awa made him an independent killer with equally heinous crimes. With clear evidence in Duong Trung's confession, the People's Court of Chengdu, Sichuan, sentenced him to death. The court determined that Duong Trung's actions not only demonstrated cruelty but also posed a severe threat to social security. With his meticulous planning and savage methods to satisfy his twisted desires, he deserved no leniency. The death sentence was finalized and carried out within 7 days, bringing an end to his reign of terror. As for Anam, while he was acquitted of the murders of Lu Xiao Lam and Xiao En, his gruesome killing of Awa was enough for him to face the highest penalty. The court noted that his distorted psyche, sick imitation of Duong Trung, and violent acts could not be justified, making him a danger to society. Additionally, his false confession in the first two cases to cover up Duong Trung's crimes further reinforced the decision to uphold the death sentence against him. Both sentences stood as powerful declarations of justice, not only bringing peace to the victims' families but also alleviating the community's fears over the horrifying series of crimes. Nevertheless, the scars left by these cases serve as a lasting lesson in vigilance regarding social relationships and the responsibility to protect communities from potential threats. Delving deeper into the causes of Duong Trung's psychological deviation and violent behavior revealed a tragic and complex life story. At 29, Duong Trung grew up in a poor family in a remote rural area. He never had the opportunity for proper education and had to take on various manual labor jobs to survive. The prolonged poverty not only restricted his material life but also instilled a deep sense of inferiority. From adulthood, Duong Trung always longed for a romantic relationship but was often outrightly rejected. The girls in his village avoided him. No one wanted to marry someone poor and without a future. This made him the subject of ridicule and gossip within the community. The whispers and disdainful looks of neighbors gradually turned into an obsession, further eroding his already wounded pride. Unable to endure the humiliation and isolation, Duong Trung decided to move to the city to seek opportunities to change his life. However, in the bustling metropolis, he found only more disappointment. Temporary, low-paying jobs and the cold indifference of society deepened his resentment toward everything around him. The feeling of rejection, the longing for recognition, and the helplessness in finding a place in society turned him into a person filled with hatred. Duong Trung began to resent life, particularly women, whom he believed had trampled on his pride. This hatred gradually developed into a pathological need. He wanted to assert his power and control by raping and murdering young women. With each criminal act, he felt as though he was avenging the pain that life had inflicted upon him. This twisted psychology was not only the result of an unfortunate life but also reflected the profound instability in Duong Trung's character and mental state. He failed to realize that his actions only pushed him further into isolation and total self-destruction. Instead of seeking liberation, he chose the darkest path, committing unforgivable crimes and becoming a symbol of desperate hatred. The horrifying case has officially been closed, but the echoes and pain it left behind will linger in the hearts of the victims' families and society. Young women like Lu Xiao Lam, Xiaoan, Awa, and other massage parlor employees were innocent lives tragically taken under the most brutal circumstances. Their deaths left a void in the hearts of their loved ones and a chilling scar on the community. The perpetrator, Duong Trung, paid the ultimate price with the death penalty, a strong declaration of justice. However, what shocked the public even more was Anam's emulation of these crimes. Anam's imitation of Duong Trung's actions, coupled with his perverse excitement over such brutality, revealed severe psychological distortions. This not only serves as a warning about the contagious nature of violence but also raises questions about society's responsibility in educating and guiding the youth's morality and psychology. The case underscores an important lesson. Educating children should not stop at teaching them to obey the law. It must also include fostering compassion, distinguishing right from wrong, and cultivating a sense of responsibility toward themselves and the community. Especially in today's information age, where crimes can be easily mimicked by individuals lacking proper awareness, preventing deviant behavior from an early stage is critically urgent. That concludes today's case. Thank you for watching until the end. If you have any thoughts or feelings about the case, don't forget to share them in the comments section below so we can hear from you. For now, goodbye, and see you in the next videos on the Whisper of the Moonlight channel.